Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it anywhere and everywhere. You can even earn money all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works.
Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today.
Then you can go ahead and distribute your podcast to Spotify and anywhere else podcasts are heard.
Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. And when you want to take the conversation with your fans to the next level, Q&A polls are the best way to get them talking.
With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions.
And best of all, it's totally free with no catch. We've been using Spotify for Podcasters, and we highly recommend you give it a try. Download Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters and get started. All right, welcome back, everybody, to That's So Fringy podcast. I am Kristen.
I'm Bethany.
And I'm Rick.
Bringing up the rear, we got Rick in the rear.
Rick in the rear.
Wow.
Fitting for what we're talking about
Oh
today.
my gosh, stop
Wow.
it. You need to get closer. Sorry.
Fitting for what we're talking about today.
I know, it kind of is. So for this week's Fringy Morsel, we are going to sort of brush on the transgender, I guess, stuff. We haven't really talked about it much, and I'm sure we'll do an episode at some point, but we're going to touch on that a little bit. So if that offends you, bye-bye.
Sorry, not sorry.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, we're not really too concerned about that. We believe in the Bible, as you guys know, so we are taking this approach coming from the Bible where the Bible says that in the beginning God created man and woman. And we know that God isn't a God of mistakes. He doesn't make mistakes. In fact, the only mistakes that happen in the world are the ones that we make. And so this whole transgender ideology that they're trying to push right now very distinctly is, to me, it's an attack on God and his creation.
Right.
Which,
Agreed.
as we get further into it, we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
So who's in the spotlight today?
So today we are going to talk about Dylan Mulvaney, which I'm sure everybody has seen on the news and the memes and
A lot of memes.
all the things.
I think Bud Light's profit dropped.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have that right here. But so 80%
Whoa.
drop in Bud Light sales at this bar I was reading about. But then Anheuser-Busch in the 12 days after the whole Mulvaney thing, their market value, they lost $5 billion.
Whoa. Billion with a B?
B with a B as in boy.
Wow. Which
Yeah.
is Dylan is a boy.
Oh, well, interesting you say that. So, as Rick was saying earlier, God doesn't make mistakes, but in an interview, this Dylan Mulvaney says that his sex assigned at birth was not what God had in mind. So,
I
that's a
wonder
thing.
what God he believes in.
Yep, that's true. Totally true.
I've seen some stuff that looks like it's more new agey. I saw something where he mentioned he was like coming into his womanhood and being invited in by all of these other women. And I believe it was something like glad to be swimming in this divine feminine energy or something like that.
Divine feminine.
And
It's
then
come up a lot
all of
lately.
a sudden it's like bing, 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 bing. All of
Yeah.
your new age radar should be going off at that point.
Yeah, definitely.
So obviously there's been some financial backlash to the whole Bud Light industry, but there's also like John Rich. He pulled all of the Bud Light beer out of his bar or bars.
Oh, wow. He was a country singer?
Yeah,
Right?
Big and Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
so they are clearing all that, and I'm pretty sure that there was another country singer that was Travis Tritt. That's who it was. He's really against all this as well.
The old schoolers.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a lot more that line up with us in that way, but because of their professions, they don't dare come out and say anything anymore.
It's hard to, speak your mind in this world nowadays because, everybody's getting canceled. Like you can get canceled for saying something that is true. I mean, how many of you took biology in school? And we've been through the classes. We know that there are male and female, and that's biologically true. If you go on an archaeological dig and you erase some bones and you bring them back to your lab, you can actually go into the bones and figure out what kind of DNA this person had when they died. And then
'Cause
you
there's
can
only two types. You have an XX or you have an XY. That's all that shows up there.
Yeah, and it'll show up right there, and they can say this person that we found was a female or was a male. And so what is it going to say when they dig up Dylan in the future one of
Right.
these days? You do an archaeological dig of America from, in the future, and you're just like, oh my gosh, the DNA of this one is trans.
Oh my gosh.
Silly.
Stop it.
Silly.
So another part of this interview, Dylan says this, quote, "I'm going to say something that might make people feel a little bit uncomfortable. I'm trying really hard to maintain a relationship with God." End quote.
Gosh.
But there again, what God are we
Yeah.
talking about? Because they believe in a God as well. It's just not God.
Right. It's
So-
not our creator.
Right. There was another thing I saw the other day that really, really resonated with me. And it says in the Bible, demons refer to themselves as they, them, we, us.
Yeah.
So are these pronouns? I mean, there's more to it than these people just want to be called something different. Like,
Right.
what's the actual agenda?
Right. Right. I totally agree. I mean, you go back to who's running the world, what they're trying to accomplish. We know that Satan is building his army just as much as we're trying to grow the kingdom for our Lord and Savior.
Right?
I mean,
I mean, I know it's hard to understand, but as passionately as we love God, they feel the same way, just with their God, or gods in some cases.
yeah. And one of the things we see a lot as we've started digging into this occult belief system is they worship Baphomet, which
Right.
is a transgender. He's got, if you've never seen, I know we've mentioned this in past episodes, but if you've never seen a photo, he's got boobs, and then he's got like a serpent thingy going down to probably where his male parts would be. So he's both genders. He's a male and,
And
a
it's
female.
like an animal head.
Yes. And that's they worship this
Yeah.
thing, this being.
Yep, big time.
Yeah, Baphomet's weird, right? If you ever see these, where was it that they put up? They put up a statue of Baphomet somewhere in the United States.
Missouri?
Missouri, yeah.
It might have been. I can't remember. I'm not going to say where because I have no idea. But in the United States they put up a Baphomet statue, and there was this big backlash, and people didn't want it, and all of these different things, and it goes back to the cancel culture. It goes back to the thing where it's like you don't get to not like this. You don't get to not go along with this trans agenda, because these are, and they get you with the, they want to make you feel like you're not being a loving Christian, or you're
Right,
not being a good person because you're not accepting these people. These are real people that that believe that God made a mistake, and that they are really supposed to be a woman. And I get you. I don't really care if they want to identify as a woman, but when you start bringing everybody else into it, and now
and you start allowing athletes to compete who are genetically male to compete in female athletics. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And guess what? They're breaking all the records.
Right.
There was even a dude that identified as a female to enter a male chess tournament. Like,
Yeah, and it's funny because we're not seeing any women asking to participate in
Right.
the men's league,
Right.
because we know physically women are not built the same as
We're
men.
not.
Men are stronger, men are faster. Sorry, women, if you don't want to hear it, but it's true.
It's true.
Genetically.
and genetically, women have other things that are awesome as well.
Yeah, like we're
Like-
smarter.
Right. We have a lot more brain cells, I'm pretty sure. We can birth a human, which is pretty amazing.
it is pretty
Seems
amazing.
Would be painful for you.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about how that baby's going to get out, but it'd be a long, tight squeeze, if you know what I mean. But or a short, tight squeeze. I don't know. But getting back to Dylan.
Derailed.
So Dylan is Dylan's been actually in the spotlight for a while.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that when you actually dig into these people, and you have to think about this from the mindset that we've been talking about, where the news media, Hollywood, it's all part of that CIA Mockingbird Monarch project, where they're trying to mess with your mind, and they're trying to show you only what they want you to see, because they're trying to further an agenda. And if you follow the money on this, you'll find that you can find that it's big tech, pharmaceutical companies, all of these things that are pushing this agenda so that they can make money. And not only make money, but can control the entire narrative. If I can't say, hey, Dylan, you're a man, I know that by your biology, and I'm sorry, but I'm not going to, go along with your delusion. And I'm going to call you what you are to me visually. I see the world in a certain way with my own two eyes. And I see you as a man. I see you as a man wearing a dress, but it doesn't make me think, oh my gosh, there's a beautiful woman. No, I'm like, is that dude wearing a dress? Yeah, it's not like you're not fooling anyone just by putting on a wig and a dress.
Right.
Everybody knows you're still a dude.
Yeah.
And you can get surgery, you can do all that. And that's where the big pharma comes in and the medical industry comes in, because the surgeries cost money, right? This silicone replacement stuff that they're doing down under costs
You guys
money.
didn't get to see the hand motions.
Yeah, there was some weird hand motions going
They
on.
were super weird.
But the medications that they're giving,
Oh yeah, at the very least, not everybody that is doing this is having surgery. At the very least, though, they're taking hormone replacements, and I mean, that's a huge pharmaceutical component. They start them all on hormones, like bingo.
Yeah, which most, like where we live, we call it a certain health plan that's free to
Right.
low income families, which is great, but it's covered for them.
Yes, it is.
If you have like a commercial insurance or a private pay insurance, it's not. It's not free. It's actually really expensive. And the Pentagon doctors, this just came out on Fox News recently, claim that 7-year-olds can now make decisions to be injected with hormone/puberty suppressants. Wow. And I heard recently, too, that if the parents don't agree with it, they can actually get their kids taken away from them because they're not supporting their children at 7 years old, their beliefs.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. And that part right there is what gets me the most. If you are a dude and you want to dress as a woman, fine, do it. I don't care. It doesn't bother me, but don't push it on my children.
Right.
And these people are chosen and they're in the limelight for a reason.
Right.
And Dylan's reason is to push this agenda on our young youth because he's not very old.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a TikTok, YouTube, whatever
Mid-20s.
influencer.
Yeah, I'm sure. So there's a clip of him on the Drew Barrymore show that just was so bothersome to me. So they're having an exchange talking about personal insecurities and stuff like that. And Drew Barrymore's like, oh, I'm the hardest on myself, or, something like that. So then this Dylan starts tearing up magically as well. And Drew Barrymore literally gets on her knees in front of this man, and they're holding hands, and it's this very intimate, but she's bowing down to this man. Like, it's crazy. And then Dylan slides off the couch, and then they're both just having this moment, I guess, this conversation on their knees when they have two perfectly good chairs right there.
It looks like they're having a slumber party or something.
It was so
they
weird.
scoot into each other and they're holding hands the whole time they're talking, which is unusual, even for women to do. This is the thing that I don't understand.
Not in that way. It was just such a weird. We should probably put the YouTube clip in the show notes so that you guys can see it, because it's comical when you know what you're looking for. But my initial was I'm uncomfortable. I just feel so uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's weird. And when you look at the Bud Light commercial or influencer TikTok video or whatever it was that dropped with Dylan wearing the dress and talking about March Madness, and you're just not only are you trying to act like a woman, but you're trying to act like an extremely stupid woman.
Right.
You don't even know what it is.
I don't understand why women don't see this as a slap in the face. The men participating in female sports, all of this stuff, they're mocking us, women. They're literally mocking us, but everybody's just oh, yes, this is, and clappity clap.
Brainwashed.
Yes, it's actually shocking. It's
weird. Yeah, it's there's a spell over them. And I hate to say them, but it's not me because I see it. So
right, and that's the whole reason for the podcast, though, is people don't see it. So you have to start at the beginning and break it down, because if you take each individual thing, it's well, what's the motivation? Why would there be all of this stuff? But if you realize the bedrock of the whole thing, they're all on the same team.
Yeah, it's a satanic agenda from the very beginning. I mean, there's nothing new under the sun, right? As it says in I believe it's Ecclesiastes. There's nothing new under the sun. There is this plan that Satan, the devil, whatever you want to call this evil entity, Shimyaza. There's this plan that Shimyaza has for the world, and it doesn't change. It's not like this roller coaster of emotions. It's all the same plan. It's to mess with the DNA, right? Depopulation, messing with the genders, trying to get people to be more like them. They want them to not have any identity, and they hate the beauty. And this is the part that really drives me nuts, is they hate the beauty that God made in the beginning when he made man and woman fit together so perfectly that you have a man and a woman that perfectly balance each other.
It's a compliment. I've never felt and I've been a career woman, I've been a stay-at-home mom, I've done it all. the stuff that I'm actually good at and the stuff that I actually want to do just naturally, and I think for most women, is to take care of your family and to stay home. You know, like that's the role that I, and pretty much every woman I've ever talked to, that's the role that they feel the best in. And of course there's women that want to have careers and they would prefer to do that. Like, and that's totally fine. But I just feel like, you know, our DNA does more than just tell us if we're a man or a woman. It also breaks down, these are your gifts as a woman and these are your gifts as a man, and they complement each other. I don't know why they're making it repel instead.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of women out there that I've met anyway that are screaming, "I want to be a CEO." It's like, you know, you can be a CEO if you want to, but there's a lot of women that just don't want to. And Jordan Peterson, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Jordan Peterson. I know the girls have, but for the audience, if you haven't, look him up. He's a guy from Canada. He was a professor, and they were trying to come down and make him use these gender pronouns, and he was like, "I'm not doing that." And his whole thing was I'm going to be just as respectful and kind to my students as I always am, but I'm not using those words that they've chosen for themselves. Like, that's not reality, and I'm a psychologist. Like, my job isn't to help people not live in reality. Like, so I'm not doing that. And so anyway, if you listen to him, he talks a lot about this subject because he's kind of been thrust into the limelight because of those beliefs. But I'm the same way. It's like I want women to be women, and I want them to be respected the way that Jesus dealt with women in the Bible. He dealt with women with respect in a time when they got none. He dealt with them in a way that, like, the whole, and I know I'm going on a tangent and preaching a little bit because I do that, but the whole thing with Mary and Martha, they come in, the disciples come in, and Mary and Martha are making them a meal, and they're letting them share their house.
Hosting them.
Yeah, they're hosting them for this, you know, kind of Bible study where Jesus is going to be teaching and everything. And then Mary is sitting at the feet of Jesus listening to this message that he's giving, and Martha comes in and she's all messed up about it because she's overwhelmed probably, but she's also like, "You're not supposed to be in there." And a lot of people
and she was like, she was fussing around to try to take care of Jesus, but it was just a really interesting encounter.
Yeah, and Jesus, basically Martha's trying to rebuke Mary and say, "You need to get up and come help me." And Jesus says, "No, she's right where she needs to be."
Yeah.
And so he gives a woman in that culture that was supposed to be up. In that culture, I'm not trying to be sexist here. In that culture, they were supposed to be fussing over the men.
Right,
That was what they were supposed to do in that culture. And Jesus said, "No. That is you're not your title. You're not your job. You are a woman, and you have respect with me. So you get to listen to my message too." And that's what God thinks of women. So Jesus is the ultimate feminist, really,
right,
because he loves women just as much as he loves men. And this whole thing where we have to, God made a mistake, and I'm going to choose to be a woman instead of a man.
And this is not what God had in mind. Like we have any comprehension of God's mind.
Yeah, not only does he know what he's doing, but he also came down to rescue us from ourselves. So, Dylan, if you're listening to this, you need Jesus.
The real Jesus.
Repent,
Yeah.
and he will come near to you.
So we have the Bud Light commercial, we have the Drew Barrymore sequence, and then another thing that we should mention is that Dylan is now part of Nike. And I don't know if you guys saw, I think I showed you briefly, but the picture of Dylan wearing tight leggings and a sports bra.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this
women's apparel line.
Yeah. Like, are we serious? Like, how far does this go? It's crazy.
Well, at what point do we stop supporting? Like, I know it's hard because
Right.
they've made it that way for a reason. But like, I will not buy anything Nike anymore.
Yeah.
And this started like a year and a half ago for me. But I won't. I mean, it's as much as it's like from our hometown, you know,
Right.
it was built right around us. I refuse. I know a lot of people who work for Nike, love their jobs.
Right.
No, I'm sorry, but at some point you have to make a stand. And if
Right.
enough people make a stand, Nike loses a bunch of money and they rethink what they're going to do, just like Bud Light is.
Yeah. Another thing that I saw was, where did I put that thing? So Disney is starting this Pride Night, I think is what it's called. And it's going to be, you know, they're going to come out in rainbow dresses, rainbow clothes. It's going to be this whole big thing.
This is grooming. It's grooming the children. You're obviously doing it for the children to have a experience there at Disney, right? This big once in a lifetime experience for some. You know, most people that live in our tax bracket don't usually go to Disneyland all the time. So if you are going on this big experience and then you go on like Pride Month or Pride Day or whatever, then that's not only are you being exposed to the best moment of your life up until that point, because Disneyland is created to be that for you, you're also experiencing all of the propaganda that goes with it.
Yeah, we actually have a gal that's going to come on in a few weeks, and she's going to kind of break down some of the Hollywood symbolism and some of the weird stuff behind Disney. It's a bit shady, a bit sus.
Yeah, Disney's going through it right now in Florida. They're in the battle back and forth with all that junk going on down there. And so it's like, well, Disney, if you're paying attention, for those of you that listen to SG and on, and if you're paying attention, he was saying we're tearing down this cabal, right? And so if you hear us say, hey, Disney's bad, and it's bad for these reasons, it's grooming, it's child trafficking, it's, you know, they got tunnels underneath and they're taking kids and blah, blah, blah. I mean, this is fact. You can look it up. Isn't it interesting that Disney is in Florida right now having this battle back and forth, and they're going down and they're trying to push this agenda even harder, and they're fighting, they're kicking, they're screaming, they're throwing a tantrum.
Right. I mean, there's a couple verses in the Bible that kind of touch on this, but one of them being Leviticus 18:22, which is, "You shall not lie with a male as with a woman; it is an abomination." So, I mean, and that's pretty clear on that aspect. And then, of course, there's Genesis, you know, where he says, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them."
Yeah.
There's only two things that are going to pop up way down the road when Dylan is a mummy. There's only two options that are going to come up, and you can't change them.
Nope.
You're fearfully and wonderfully made.
And it's not going to be trans DNA.
Well, you don't know for sure, but
Yeah, it doesn't matter how many surgeries you have. You're still a man, you're still a woman.
yep,
Period.
that's it.
Ooh, do some research, you guys, because there's more than just Dylan out there.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot, and this agenda is being pushed everywhere. Everything. I mean, it kind of pisses me off that they hijacked the rainbow, because I've always loved rainbows.
Oh yeah, they do it on purpose.
And they took that whole thing. Like, I can't even wear a rainbow.
Is it a surprise though?
Yeah,
I mean, if you're
that's
going to
true.
hijack something that is God's, I mean, it's like when you start putting these pieces
and the
together,
rainbow is
you're like,
God's
duh.
promise to humanity that He's not going to destroy us in a flood again. Like, I don't think it was happenstance that they hijacked the rainbow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
# give us back our rainbow.
That's right. All right, you guys, that's going to be it for today. We don't want to go too much longer. We try to keep these things short, but that's your current event for this week. We've got, we're going to put all of those things that we mentioned in the show notes so that you guys can
Yeah.
do that research.
Yeah.
But look this stuff up. I mean, Dylan's been
It's everywhere.
Dylan's been on the Ellen Show. Price is Right. I mean, it goes back to, what did you say? What year was he on the Price is Right?
2020.
I think it was
He was on
2020, yeah.
Ellen Show in 2018.
Yeah, so he's been this dude, girl, man, whatever it is. It's been demon. It's been in the limelight for a while. They've been pushing this, and there's a picture that we'll put in the show notes too. That is, Dylan with like these wings and a silk,
creepy.
Like a satin silky white garment, looking like a rising angel almost. And then there's all these people dressed in like black. What would you say that is? Like a sheer.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a sheer covering, shawl. But they're
Like a
like
ring wraith?
just completely, ring wraith. They're completely covered in black, and they're like, like hoisting Dylan up into the air, almost like demons pushing this agenda out into the public.
Yep,
I mean,
exactly
it's
what it is. I mean, look at the imagery.
art.
It is. You should draw that. You should sketch that out for us.
Oh my gosh. If you want to see a white and several black stick figures, then let's do that. All right, you guys.
So we have coming up this Sunday, we got to sit down with Bo Kennedy of the Bump podcast. Go check out his Instagram and all that stuff. But we're going to have him on, and he goes over a lot of this spiritual warfare stuff.
Yeah, it was a fun time talking with Bo. Just a cool guy and very knowledgeable when it comes to spiritual warfare. So it's not one to be missed. So with that, I think we're going to check out of here. Yeah. I'm Rick.
I'm Bethany.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is That's So Fringy podcast. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.